Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Unmissable Update News broadcast series. It's not what it's called, but you get it. Okay, so I woke up, and what do you know? A tweet from Bethesda Game Studios. As the vision and scope of our games have grown, so do we. We're excited to announce we now have an amazing studio and team in Austin. Okay, now this is interesting and excellent news. Bethesda Game Studios now has a studio in Maryland, Montreal, and Austin. The more the merrier, if you ask me. A few hours later, they then went on to post more information on their website, which reads as follows. Bethesda Game Studios expands with new Austin office. Bethesda Game Studios, a ZeniMax media company, today announced that it has expanded development capacity for future titles by welcoming Battlecry Studios in Austin, Texas as part of Bethesda Game Studios. As the vision, scale, and ambition of our games continue to grow, so does Bethesda Game Studios, said Todd Howard, game director and executive producer at Bethesda Game Studios. We've had the pleasure to know the talented developers at Battlecry and knew we could do great things together. Bethesda Game Studios Austin is staffed by a core team of seasoned industry veterans with experience developing AAA games. The studio will be managed by industry veteran Doug Mellencamp as studio director. We're excited to join Bethesda Game Studios and look forward to working together on some of the industry's most exciting new games, said Mellencamp. Austin's incredible game development scene and talent will also allow us to push our games further than fans have imagined. Bethesda Game Studios is currently hiring for its Maryland, Montreal, and Austin locations. For more information about available jobs, visit that link, which we'll do later on in the video. Okay, so this is super interesting, as less than a week ago, when I made my Bethesda E3 prediction video, I said this. Next we have Battlecry Studios. I don't think we'll ever hear from these guys again. Apparently they've off-put most of their staff already and their head left. So as far as I'm aware, Battlecry Studios helps the other studios that Bethesda Softworks publishes when extra staff is needed, so we won't be getting any news from them anytime this year, or anytime in the future, I don't think. So just cross them out for the time being. So technically I was right, and I was wrong at the same time. We did hear about Battlecry Studios again, but it was the news that they are now no more, and instead that team has been turned or absorbed into Bethesda Game Studios Austin. Now, if you've never heard of them, Battlecry Studios was making a game called Battlecry, which was teased at E3 2014, I do believe, and then we just literally never heard about it again or heard from the studio. Now, I do know that Battlecry Studios actually had its staff moved around and worked on some other Bethesda Softworks studios. For example, I'm pretty sure that Battlecry Studios worked on Doom, but it is cool that they have now been totally absorbed into their own studio, or turned into their own studio, which is now Bethesda Game Studios Austin. Now, there were a few very interesting things said there. We're excited to join Bethesda Game Studios and look forward to working together on some of the industry's most exciting new games. So this means that Bethesda Game Studios Austin won't be doing their own little thing. And even if they do, at the very least, they will be working with Bethesda Maryland, the main studio. As he says there, we look forward to working together. He also said, Austin's incredible game development scene and talent will also allow us to push our games further than fans have imagined. So the only way that Austin's incredible game development scene would influence what they make is if they get the help of other studios. Now, we know that other ZeniMax media companies such as Arcane Studios and the id guys have worked together, like with Fallout 4's shooting. I'm pretty sure they had help from Arcane Studios and id Software, or Machine Games, I can't remember, but there's this kind of cross-pollination thing where they're like, alright, we need some help with this, so we're going to get help from another Bethesda Softworks studio. Now, Arcane Studios is located within Austin, Texas. So does this mean that Bethesda Game Studios Austin is going to get the help of Arcane Studios? Again, it says that Austin's incredible game development scene and talent will allow Bethesda Game Studios Austin to push their games further than fans have imagined. So that's interesting, and we might be able to expect some cross-game studios helping each other. But regardless of what they're doing, expansion to Bethesda Game Studios is great. Obviously, the more people we have working on something, the bigger, better, and faster that content is made. Now, in my opinion, Bethesda Game Studios has needed to expand for ages. Traditionally, with Oblivion, Skyrim, and Fallout 4, they had a team of around 100 people. Some of the games had less, some of the games had more, but again, it was roughly around the middle mark of 100 developers working on those games at Bethesda Game Studios. Now, 100 people might sound like a lot, but trust me, 100 developers is not a lot of people to produce AAA titles. For example, Ubisoft Montreal has 2,700 developers on their team. So when compared to Bethesda Game Studios' 100 developers, well, BGS has literally 27 times less staff, and they're still making better games, in my opinion, of course. So the fact that they are now finally expanding more and more, thank the holy divines. Now, a few years ago, I do believe at E3 2016, Bethesda Game Studios announced the Montreal studio. Now, the first real project that they did was Skyrim Special Edition. However, I do believe that Bethesda Game Studios Montreal will be working on smaller titles and random bits and bobs like mobile games. The reason for this I'll run through in a minute when we come to the job listings, and speaking of, let's do that now. So I went through the job listings link on the website, and between BGS Maryland, BGS Montreal, and BGS Austin, there were a total of 42 job listings. Now again, this is quite a lot, because when you consider that their team has traditionally been around 100 people, another 42, that's pretty good. So we have at least an additional 42 people, and then of course, whoever they've already hired, and then of course, the team size of Battlecry Studios that already existed. So with all this together, I would estimate that BGS as a whole will have around 160 to 200 staff now. Again, this is great because it means we get bigger, better, and faster games. Now, something interesting here is that Bethesda Game Studios Austin job listing has a quest designer and a VFX artist. Now, this is weird to me because quest designer implies that they're going to be working on some kind of game that has enough questing in it where they need a quest designer. So will this be a small mobile game? I mean, it could be, but I don't think so. And I also don't think Bethesda Game Studios Austin is going to be working on mobile games anyway. I'll get to why in a minute. But the other thing is a VFX artist. I went through all of Bethesda Game Studios' game releases, I went through all of the credits, and none of them have a credited VFX artist. So I don't actually know what this means or what kind of game is being made that requires a specific role of a VFX artist. VFX is visual effects, by the way. So if anyone out there can deduce anything more specific from this information, please do. It's just something I noticed and found it a bit weird. Now, Bethesda Game Studios Montreal has these job listings, one of which really caught my eye, and this is why I think Bethesda Montreal is going to be making mobile games, because they've got a job listing for a Buildmaster mobile. Of course, why do you want that? Because you're building stuff for the mobile. Now, Bethesda Game Studios, or specifically Todd Howard, said that after the fun and success they had with Fallout Shelter, yeah, they do want to work on some more mobile games. And that is what I do believe Bethesda Game Studios Montreal will be doing and is doing at the moment. So, all in all, this expansion is great and in my eyes well overdue. At the moment, their current rate of game releases it's understandable for their team size and the kind of massive quality games they produce, but also it's just a bit too slow for the current gaming market. You know, keeping people waiting for their favorite game series, the next release for 7, 8, 9, 10 years is just so goddamn grim for the consumer. I mean, Skyrim made over $2 billion in profit, Fallout 4 is said to have made over $750 million in its first week. So why would you keep people waiting for these things when they are massive cash cows and everyone's stinging to buy the next one? Well, hopefully this new expansion will be the answer to those huge gaps between releases of the same IP. I also find it super weird that E3 is 3 months away, and Bethesda Game Studios chose to announce this rather big announcement now instead of at E3. Does this mean we can expect to see something from Bethesda Game Studios Austin at E3? If so, why not just tell us at E3 and be like, by the way, we've expanded with this studio and here's a new game they've made, oh my god. But I doubt we'll see a game from Bethesda Game Studios Austin at E3 this year. However, Bethesda Game Studios as a whole, I am convinced they're going to announce something. And again, I do have a video talking about that way more in depth. But back to this, yeah, it's strange that they didn't just announce this at E3, which also makes me slightly suspicious that they are announcing things before E3, so does this mean that their E3 showcase is super packed and there wasn't enough room for an announcement like this? I don't know what's going on, stuff's getting weird, but it is definitely definitely exciting and good news that Bethesda Game Studios is finally expanding more and more and more. So I am very excited to hear your thoughts on this and what you think this means for Bethesda Game Studios and what you are expecting to see more of and what you're expecting to see from Bethesda Game Studios Austin. So be sure to follow me on my social media. The links to them can be found down in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I will see you very shortly in the next video. I'll see you there soon.